No. I've definitely woken up with my butt straight in the air, kind of cocked weird sideways. Yeah.
Oh.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a show where we talk about the sins and stuff that happened behind it. Aaron forgot to give me any of the words that I'm supposed to say at the beginning of the show again, so that's what you get this week. This is a weekly podcast where we, the B team, take a deep dive into writing and editing, the whole process behind the CinemaSins videos from this past week. My name is Danae. I'm joined by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello.
And Chris Creasy. Welcome back.
Hey. Well, nice to be back.
Aaron has abandoned us to join his famous friends at the Critics' Choice Awards in LA.
Yeah.
We're not bitter. We're bitter.
No, not better at all.
We, the three of us, write, edit, and do all sorts of other things for CinemaSins, TV Sins, and the Music Video Sins channels. So, but hey, before we actually kick off the show proper, if you want to hear our first episode with Creasy, it's episode number 16. But a lot's actually kind of been happening since that episode, Creasy. So do you want to bring everybody up to speed? Because at the time when we chatted last, you were editing a lot more. And now you're like basically running the place.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I'm running the place, but I am. Right now, I'm more hands-off on the day-to-day editing and stuff like that. I just kind of supervise and help out with the channel from time to time, and occasionally review edits now. But yeah, I'm trying to be a more big picture person here at the main company, management company, Made Network. So I'm also working on some other channels, so that's been nice to get a little variety. But yeah, Ashley Stamper's moved into the project management position, and she's been taking care of the day-to-day edits and making sure the team stays on task, and just trying to improve everything in just our own little ways and stuff like that. Making it work for us.
And now, like when things happen, like Sin Week, for example, we work alongside the whole team, but you kind of are more in that, I'm going to say, management type role where you're kind of helping everything run smoothly. So you now do a lot more of that. And they gave you like a whip, right? So that you can whip everybody into shape.
No, HR won't give me the whip. They just have it in a glass box that says break in case of emergency. But that's kind of, I'm just here to help out with stuff like that now. Sins Week is hopefully going to start rolling here in soon. We'll start seeing how many people we're going to have and get some more details nailed down for that. I know that you guys have been working more on the events and stuff like that on your side.
The planning is in full swing for Sin Week. We're really excited about it. In fact, Aaron and I are going to be visiting Nashville to meet with you guys in person soon, too, so we can put our heads together and make sure that it's not lame.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't lame last year either, so
I heard. But see, I'm coming this year, so there's a really huge chance that it just all gets ruined. I have we'll see.
Yeah. I think it'll be awesome. The more the merrier,
That's true. Well, we're excited to have you on the show. Thank you for taking time to hang out with us today. Are you guys ready to get started?
Yep.
Okay, Let's get into the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
All right, we're going to take a look at the videos from this week, the process of sending them and editing them, and our whole experience with how we felt about the show or movie in general. We're going to start off on TV Sins with a little thing called My Hero Academia. Aaron and I wrote on this one. And do you guys have any experience with My Hero Academia?
Nope.
No, yeah, I'm not a huge, my anime experience is Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z.
There you go.
And maybe a little bit of Last Airbender.
Yeah, I've seen some good God, my volume. I've seen very little anime. Yeah, it's just not a style that appeals to me for whatever reason. I've tried to watch it many, many times. Like I've tried to watch all the popular stuff that people recommend to me, but I've never really been able to get into it. And I tried to actually watch the pilot of this, thinking that would help me understand this video, and I couldn't make it through the pilot. So
Really?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, I have, I think more anime experience, but because of my lack of my memory issue that I have, where I just gotta like do a big dump of information, I was more into like the anime like movies where you could sit down and watch everything from beginning to end, and it wasn't necessarily series based, because my brother was huge into anime. So like so Spirited Away was one that I remember. If you guys haven't ever watched that one, that was a really, really good one. So I actually like this style a lot, and it was really fun to sin this because you're kind of sinning a style in a way, and the fans definitely picked up on that. But anyways, what did you guys think about watching this this video? What was your experience? Because for us, this is, I think, there's both of the TV sins this week. We changed up our format and we went, instead of doing the pilot.
Nope.
No? No?
No, because one of them got switched.
Oh, that's right. So that's going to happen later.
Well, hold on real quick. You have Mandalorian as the next one, right?
Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
good.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
just making
right.
sure.
Yeah. No, you're right, because we had to switch things up. So this one and another one we'll talk about later, I guess, where we drop right into basically the middle of a series instead of going pilot. And so it was not only anime style, but it was really crazy to just have no context for so many things. Like, maybe we shouldn't have done that, but it was a super popular episode, so we thought we would. So it was confusing watching it. Was it confusing watching the Sins video? How did it feel?
You guys did a really, really, really good job with it, though, because this was you and Dicer, right? Did you say that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So this was you and Dicer. So I had just heard you guys talk, and I know Chris helped out with it, too. So I had heard a lot of comments about, it was crazy diving into the middle of the show and all that stuff. So maybe it was just I was expecting it, a little differently. I don't know, but you guys played off on that really well. Let's put it that. I thought that was really funny, and that ended up being a really good part of the video where you're directly saying, the fans requested this, and
yeah.
This is what you get.
Yeah.
I was gonna say when I was watching this, I was totally lost. Definitely had some things that reminded me of watching anime as a kid, with like just the whole inner dialogue while they're trying to fight each other, but yet they're standing on opposite sides of the field, just looking at each other for long periods of time.
I was gonna say that's a big anime thing, right?
It is, yeah. Without and there's no blinking. There's no eyes closing ever.
I actually had that written down. That was one of my favorite scenes, where he's just like blink.
I mean, it was really intense a few times watching it where I realized like my eyes were starting to dry out because I'm just like, I can't handle there being no eye movement apparently, except for like the shimmering sort of light back and forth anime thing.
But I think Aaron was saying, like, because his kids are really into this, I think, right? And this has like become like, I guess, what the X-Men was for us. Or for me, for a lot of kids today, and I can see that. And maybe if I actually, gave it a chance and started watching a few episodes, I could definitely see it being something you got into. But yeah, you could tell like by this episode, the style of the show is already established, and it looked like there was 47 storylines that were being answered. I'm really curious why this is a favorite episode.
I think I read a lot of the comments on this one, and I obviously tried to look up information on the whole universe of MHA so that I could learn what quirks were, because they call their powers quirks, and to kind of get caught up to this point in the show. And I think it's just the backstory of the various characters, because, you're revealing, and also that character comes into his full power. Like, he decides to use his fire power instead of just his ice power. And then oh goodness, I just forgot all their names because that's just me. But, also just the finger flicker, that guy, he... I mean, God, watching this show for the first time with no context, and he starts to flick his fingers and then they break. I was like, what the hell is this? And then it keeps breaking over and over and over again. And that really bothered me, actually, just to kind of sidetrack. There's just such an emotional buildup when you're watching it because everything is so intense. So it's like, I only have a few more fingers left. Oh no, I can flick my cheek too. It's like, okay, so where is it's like everything is just building all this fake tension. And I really, that just kind of gets annoying. It's sort of like a friend that always calls you and always has drama. And there's never like a ceiling for, okay, when are you going to come down a little bit? And this show, I mean, it was just on 10 or 11 the entire time. So it was kind of crazy.
Well, and then it looked like it ended with like a flashback to like child abuse or something.
Yeah. So that was part of the guy who had two-toned hair, his backstory for like his upbringing, how he got the scar on his face because his mother poured boiling water on his head because he reminded her of his dad. I mean, it was really weird, and it was obviously really hard to watch and to kind of really think about this being part of someone's story and to know that this is actually, some people actually have this kind of tragic childhood. And so I wanted to write a sin about that, and I tried to walk that fine line of, on like, in a weird way, honoring that people have this experience. And it was a trigger. That whole 3 minutes was just like, this is filled with horrible stuff, even though it's really true stuff and it's heartfelt stuff. It was really hard. So I think that's, again, one of the big things about this particular episode, and also that the finger flicker brought it out of him, like, because he kept egging him on, and I don't think we showed that happening a lot, but he would say stuff like, you can't be the number one person if you're not going to use your full power. Like, we're out here giving our all and you're holding back, so you don't deserve to be number one unless you give your all, even if it means you're using this other power that you don't want to use. So that's a huge part of that story as well. The fans of the show seem to be kind of okay with us going and digging at it. Celia Leon said, having seen the whole show, I'm a huge fan of BNHA, but I'm so glad you guys did this episode. I started crying laughing at the Derpy Derp song, even though watching the actual episode for the first time brought me to tears as well. And I wanted to talk about this one now because that's was really prevalent in the comments, with people being like, this episode was like, it made me cry. This was such a big deal. And Aaron's kids said that too. They're like, this is a big episode. And so, but they still had fun watching it and watching us in it. And the reaction to like, oh my God, Jeremy's doing anime was so fun to read. So
that's good.
Yeah. It's always a little bit intimidating whenever you go in to send something that everybody is beloved. So Aaron added that the problem here is that there's so much soap opera and melodrama in most anime that it only takes a couple episodes to not know what's going on. It was a blast to sin, though. The endless talk fighting, the Derpy Derp song will go down in history as one of the greats. And then he also enjoyed the Welcome to Anime. And then I'll add another comment, but I want to hear more of your guys' thoughts before his last comment.
Go ahead, Creasy. What did he think about the video that you enjoyed?
Oh, I mean, it was fun because I haven't really watched an anime in a really long time, so this really made me want to watch Dragon Ball Z again. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Stamper would probably be better because she loves this show. She's a huge fan of anime, and I think she was a big fan of this show in general. I think she was also one of the people who helped recommend it way back when. There was one sin that I really enjoyed by Jeremy. I don't know who wrote it. It was Jeremy reading a line saying, "I can't relate. I have unlimited power to sin. Feel my wrath." And the only thing I could think of was just Jeremy in the Emperor's costume going, "Unlimited power." Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this anime compared to some others, though, is that like this is a specific genre. I don't know exactly what the name of it is, like Shojin or something like that, where it's just like it's pretty much just two people facing off every episode or every 10 episodes. So I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about anime, but I know that these tend to be the more popular ones for like younger kids, and then it has a really weird grip on certain people who are adults, like people who are in their 30s who are watching this, like they are all about it, and I don't understand. I don't think I've ever been so fandom about anything as much as some people are about these kind of shows.
I'm with you on that. And you know, there's so much context. You know, I think there's a movie, and then there's a manga series that's written and illustrated to kind of pull from. So this is like an entire world, and we're just watching, you know, this tiny little blip of it. So one of the sins that Aaron wrote, which was really fun, he wrote a sin about Snuffleupagus, and he thought it was Snuffleupagus with an F instead of a P. And so in the script, he wrote, you know, his Snuffleupagus, and then it was corrected. I think Chris corrected it. And he goes, so he wrote for the notes today, he says, I was today years old when I learned that I have been mispronouncing and misspelling Snuffleupagus my entire life. So, you know what? That just happens from time to time. But that was, he had a little eye-opening moment where he realized that.
I guess we'll talk about this in a couple weeks when we talk about the show, or maybe this is even going to be next week. But Danae, you taught me the meaning of a word that I thought did not mean that.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, yes, I do. That'll be an interesting one.
Well, like I said, thankfully it's not something I used in my everyday language. So.
Right. For real. Do you guys have any other thoughts or highlight moments from My Hero Academia before moving on?
I really liked the sin. Where was it? Oh, I haven't seen fingering this dangerous since the movie Fear. So I am 99% sure that was Chris, but I loved it.
That one was an interesting one too, because when Aaron wrote that one, it actually had a different context. So, and then Chris, they kind of went back and forth and kind of created a new sin out of it. So it was like a little combine moment. Mm-hmm. But I like where they landed, because when that one popped up on the screen, my husband was like, "Oh my God." I totally forgot. Like, I don't even, because I don't remember stuff.
It's Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon on, is it a roller coaster?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, late 90s, man. Good times.
Good times. All right, well, let's go on to the next one. We, as you heard us kind of reference, we had to move some stuff around, and here comes Mandalorian. This was myself and Mr. Watkins writing on the Mandalorian. So why don't you talk a little bit about your experience with writing it?
Probably the two people in the company least into Star Wars.
Yeah, and we did Rebels too, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, for the record, I mean, I've seen, and you have too. I mean, we've seen most of the Star Wars stuff, but I would say not as diehard of a fan as like Aaron or Chris or Barrett or whatever. But no, this was a lot of fun. I had already seen this. I still haven't finished the series. I've only watched the first 5 episodes, or 6 maybe. I can't remember now. I've got 2 or 3 episodes left, but I'm really enjoying it. So it was really fun to be able to do this. I'm really glad it's out there. I think we had a lot. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was. Hey, Creasy, what's your experience with Mandalorian, just in general?
Oh, I've watched the entire series. I did, like, the day it came out, I was watching that episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've kind of followed some of the writings about it online, and just trying to see what people are thinking about. I was kind of hesitant because like everybody was just like, "Oh, it's the best space western ever," and I'm like, "No, that's Firefly." But
but technically, you could say, yeah, that's right. No, that is Firefly. No, you're right, 100%. I agree with you on that one, actually.
No. I do too.
No, I enjoy it thoroughly. I think Jon Favreau has restarted started so many great things. He started the MCU with Iron Man, and now he's starting his own little thing with Star Wars. So I'm happy to see whatever.
It's cool too because it feels like a TV show though. I mean, it's like they do it like I don't know if that makes sense, but like because I've heard a lot of people talk about how maybe they should be doing this in the movies. And it's like, well, no, they shouldn't, because this is definitely a TV show. It's not a movie. And I'm just impressed that they could even make that work, because I think that's harder to do than people would imagine.
Yeah.
When you've got something that's mainly a movie, because they're very different formats.
But I mean, it's done in a spaghetti western style esque, and then it's got like the whole like story of the week aspect to it, which it makes it more like a dime store comic book, a little bit, like the way the story is told, and like it all kind of comes together. And this first episode is just like really great at like, not giving you too much information, but giving you enough to keep you hooked.
Yeah, I found that too. Especially with showing the asset just at the very, very end, and it being just such an adorable moment and kind of a surprise. And then the second episode, I've watched the first 3 episodes, and there was just so many beautiful like cinematic moments visually of just this Mandalorian and then this little floating pod beside him, and just like this juxtaposition of a grown warrior with a child infant. And that's something that's like echoed through many stories. I was kind of getting into some blogs and such over the weekend as I was thinking about, I think that's just been beautiful to watch. I really have had a good time. Like this is one that I had to watch a couple of times before I was really getting into like the sin mode 100%, because I was having a good time. I love the Star Wars world. I have a good time with all the creatures that are created. But it is interesting to watch a show where the main character is just a mask, and it does change some of how you interpret what you're seeing. And so once I realized that was affecting me, then you're trying to write like what's behind the mask jokes, and you're always trying to figure out a way when you're writing these scripts to enjoy it, but then find something that you can kind of nitpick about it or have fun with at the same time. So, but I had no idea what to expect as I was watching it. So I had a really, really good time though. And I love the music as well. I think it's some of the most like standout music that I can remember in a show in recent history.
Yeah, we got called out for not taking a sin off for the music.
Yeah, we also got called out for not taking a sin off for Baby Yoda. Let's talk about that.
Oh, yeah, that seemed to be the main thing.
Yeah, you can't send Baby Yoda.
You
were talking about. Oh, sorry. You were talking about like him wearing the mask throughout the entire series and episode. And the thing is, like even though it's just his voice acting and like subtle body movements, but he brings such emotion. Like you can tell what he's thinking, and that's the great thing about it. Like, and that takes a really good actor.
I mean, it's crazy, or maybe even a really good. Is it cinematographer who shoots the camera angles? Would that be the cinematographer?
Yeah, the cinematographer does lighting, and then he also can set up. He tells what the shot is. And
so would it be the director then? Yeah,
the director has more control over that. But yeah,
I'm thinking of a particular scene. So this is in I think episode 3. So apologies if you haven't watched, but there's this moment. I'll try to keep it as spoiler free as possible. There's this moment where the Mandalorian looks in a trash can and he sees a certain object in the trash can, and he's making a decision on whether he's going to go and like what he's going to do with his choices. And he looks in the trash can and he sees this device that has a lot of meaning to him. And so it's just this mask looking into a trash can, but the way that it's shot, like you said, Creasy, or just what he's thinking. And there's like a lot of emotion there. And of course the music is playing and things like that. So yeah, I really thought that was impressive. That particular scene is one that stands out to me. I actually watched the next 2 episodes just over this weekend, so they're really fresh in my mind.
Yeah. We got called out for the mask too, because at least one person did, because we had that sin about not showing Pedro Pascal, but it was a joke. Right. It was a joke. Like,
yeah.
We're okay with the mask being on.
I really there was someone who wrote something. I don't remember where it was at, but it's like, you must be new here. You clearly don't know what channel you're watching, because this is normal. Like, well, there's a part of our job is to troll you. Go ahead.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Oh no, it's okay.
No, I was gonna say there was a funny comment about something we sinned. Like, it's the first sin is that he's wearing a cape, and it was just like CinemaSins complains about a cape, and then it says me this is the way.
There were a few things on the Cape too. Like people know a lot about the Mandalorian.
Yeah. No, it is kind of cool to learn about that again, because if you're thinking about it from the narrator's perspective, the narrator is watching a show just as it is. He doesn't necessarily know all of the lore. And sometimes we play that he does know by going to wiki fan pages, or we'll write a sin where it's like, I just went and looked this up and then now I know XYZ. We can kind of write that in. But there is a truth to not being able to know everything about My Hero Academia, or not being able to know everything about Star Wars. So I do like learning those things from the comments. And
absolutely.
But still, the Cape was ridiculous. I'll stand behind that one.
So are you going to say something about Baby Yoda?
Me? Yeah. I've got so many thoughts about Baby Yoda. But go ahead, Creasy.
Well, I was going to say, like, that's the nice thing about, like, the way they did Easter eggs in this was very subtle. Like, the guy he catches, the first bounty he catches in this episode, and he talks about Life Day, which is a nice little throwback to the Christmas special that aired on television.
Yeah.
So even though I've never seen it, which is sad for me, but I love those like little things, like, oh, if you know Star Wars really well, this is for you, like these little nods and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's what Easter eggs should be too. I mean, there should be like you shouldn't have to know stuff, but if you do know it, it just makes it all that more interesting or that more rewarding, I guess.
That was one of my favorite sins to write, was when he's talking about, like, what was it, getting rid of his bowels or whatever he was talking about.
Yeah.
And the sin about the Instagram people who are showing goats having sex and peeing. Like, I don't want to see that. I just want to see your candles. That's actually based on me and my searches on Instagram. Like, that's real. I follow this one particular channel, or this one particular person, and they live like a super granola life. And it's fascinating to watch. But then one day it was all about taking their goats to go procreate, and they're showing the whole thing, and I was like, I just don't feel like goat sex today, guys. I'll just skip. And then the next two panels are him like peeing off of a cliff. It's like, okay, cool, thanks for showing me your stream, man. Have a great day. I wanted to see your cool wax candles, that's all. Like, stop. So
I like
that was
the
kind of
idea
fun.
that, though, you said today's not a good day, so there is a good day for goat sex, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but that was not that day.
It's not Wednesday or whatever that day was.
That's right.
Thursday is goat sex day, everybody.
Not taking sins off for Baby Yoda. So here's my thought on the final sin, which was kind of like, the whole point was there was such an uproar about, it's not Baby Yoda, stop calling him Baby Yoda, and this whole thing back and forth as the Mandalorian, blew up the internet and blew up Twitter, and there's all these back and forth. So the entire like last moment was a sin about just trolling that moment. It wasn't actually a sin for Baby Yoda. It was a sin for that back and forth. And I loved being able to end it with like, just kidding, guys, calm down, because the idea that Jeremy would call it Baby Yoda and that the internet would be enraged because it's not Baby Yoda, and then he's like, calm down, I know.
Yeah.
It made me so happy to think about.
Yeah, because we both had variations on that. We were both in the same thought process when it came to the end.
Yeah, like we don't necessarily want to sin Baby Yoda. Like I didn't intend it to have that tone that we were actually sinning it, but I can see how it came across that way.
He's also only in that one. He's only in that stinger at the end. So if we were doing a different episode where he's in more of it, maybe we would take a sin off.
Yeah, but he was just so quick.
It just didn't. It didn't really make sense to do that. It felt more fun to troll.
Yeah, it did feel more fun to troll, which just means that I'm embracing my dark power, my dark side. What else stood out to you guys on this particular episode, The Mandalorian, before we move on?
Well, the fact that you guys didn't call out Carl Weathers for being a discount Lando Calrissian.
Aww.
No, but we did say that he wasn't hunting predators.
Yeah, or fighting a Russian. So that was, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Holy crap,
I love Carl Weathers too much to call him a discount Lando Calrissian.
The Shrimply Pibbles commentary continues. Let's just talk about that super, super fast. I am in a back and forth. I'm not going to call it an argument. I'm just going to call it a back and forth conversation in the comments as we speak. Someone's like, he's not Shrimply Pibbles. And I was like, it's on IMDb. And they're like, no, it's not. And I don't even know how to argue with that. Because if you go to IMDb and you look, then it says it. So I decided to stop. I decided this is not the hill that I want to die on. I don't want to die on the Shrimply Pibbles hill.
And if we want to call somebody Shrimply Pibbles, who cares? I mean, we called the Mandalorian Pickle Rick. So
we did. Yes, we did. Because we don't know what's behind that mask, you guys.
That's true.
No.
It could be a pickle.
It could be a pickle. Anything else that you guys wanted to point out?
The dark vignette filter or vignette, or how do you say that? Was it vignette?
Vignette. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Vignette.
Oh, and then which we kind of touched on this at the beginning. We were talking about this, but our comment about westernizing Star Wars, and then we had a bunch of people say, "Well, it's already westernized,"
which I had never really thought about before. But I kind of get what they're saying in a way. But this is so much more because it's the music, it's the riding on an animal across the desert. Like it's so much more on the nose for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, let's not joke. I mean, Han Solo was a cowboy. I mean,
that's right, the space cowboy.
Space cowboy. No, what I loved though, I'm a sucker for a good Trimmer reference in the outtakes. The Kevin Bacon. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was fun. I think we've done that one before too. It's just that's a great that's a good cutaway shot. Because it's just him going, fuck you.
Yeah.
No, I still remember as a kid seeing that in the theater, and I mean I still remember seeing that scene in the theater. Like that's how prominent that scene is in my movie cinematic history.
Man, I watched that one on television. I was over at like a friend's house and they had it on their TV. I don't remember how old I was. I want to say I was like 10 or so. Mm-hmm. And it was terrifying, obviously. Especially like the whole creature inside of a mouth of a creature. That was really disturbing. And then like the big gaping maw that opens up, which is now one of my triggers for fear. But I remember the moment when it flies off of like the cliff and then falls down and then
that's the same scene actually
explodes in gore. There was another small child, probably 5, that was also there, and the dad turns and says to the little kid, "Don't worry, honey, it's just ketchup." And I don't know why, but that's always stood out to me. It's like, does that make it any weird?
That's really
like,
funny too,
weird?
because that's the exact same scene. Like that's where it cuts to Kevin Bacon after it goes through the cliff, and he says that.
Oh, that's funny. Don't worry, honey, it's ketchup. Speaking of ketchup and food, let's talk about Bieber.
Wow.
This week on Music Video Sins, our beloved Mr. Cher goes at Bieber for the auto-tuned cotton candy for the win. This one is interesting. This is Yummy, I believe is the title. I think that's pretty clear, as the entire thing is just all yumminess. We here on this show don't usually spend a ton of time talking about music videos because oftentimes it's like either like a skip scenario, but then sometimes we actually do like really get into deep conversation. I'm going to guess this week we don't have deep conversation about this one. What did you guys think?
This song
one?
is really bad. Barrett actually that's basically what he said, right?
Oh my gosh, we've got some great commentary from him this week.
And he's actually, I mean, I don't know if I would say he's a huge Justin Bieber fan, but he's definitely one of the few people I know my age that is definitely my age that's male that has had positive things to say about Bieber. But I know he did not like this, and rightfully so, because it's just awful.
Yeah, I mean, Creasy, do you want to talk anything deep and meaningful about what you saw on the music video channel this week?
No. I mean, when my thing was is like the food that they brought out, like and the musical chairs. It was just so weird. There was a lot going on in this video that I was just like, what the heck is this actually about? I understand. I get the food and the yummy, but I mean, the plate that he brings out with him, or the first plate they bring him, looks like it's the Fire Festival sandwich, and I'm just like, okay. I don't know what's going on with Justin's musical career right now, but I'm hoping he figures himself out.
It was hard to watch. It wasn't hard to watch Mariah Carey hard to watch. It was hard to watch like what is this song? It's not obviously not about food. This is about sex. And the whole metaphor, but the food looks disgusting and the people are like a different people are attractive. I don't like to do like the whole like this is what an attractive person looks like.
Yeah.
But the portrayal of attraction is interesting. He's underdressed. They're all overdressed. You know what I mean? Like he has
pink hair.
He's wearing a holy pink. It's got holes all in it, like this pink hoodie with a candy necklace on.
Or wait, maybe that's what was pink. Did he have pink hair also?
Yes,
yeah,
he also
has
had pink hair.
And I think eyeshadow too, like really light pink eyeshadow.
Yeah, and that's fine, but it just
for sure.
It didn't match.
I didn't mean anything negative about that.
Right.
No, it's just weird.
It didn't match what was going on around. And where were they? It seems like I don't know, the end of the year bingo holiday celebration. It was strange for sure.
This felt like a person that has grown up with money trying to say something.
It didn't. You know what it felt? It felt like to me just. Someone's like,
somebody who,
it's
basically
yummy.
like
It's
someone
about
who doesn't
food.
understand how the world works.
Or like 12 people sat around and put their ideas for a music video into a bowl, and then they pulled them out one by one, and then that's what they did in that order.
Maybe.
Like, then we're going to have them dance on chairs. And
might have been a bowl full of weed that they threw.
Well, the guy who directed this was also the guy who did Dance This with, what's his name, Troy Sivan, or...
interesting.
Yeah, I think that was the Ariana Grande one with him. So, I think he's known for doing these really weird music videos. So I think that's kind of like where some of this came from. But
that might have something to do with it.
You know, every once it reminds me a little bit of watching So You Think You Can Dance, and then there's a choreographer that'll do this incredibly weird and quirky moment. You know, it lasts for a few minutes, but there's still a message there, and you're still like, you're like, what did I just watch? That's clearly art, and it has a meaning, and I feel some kind of way, but this is like the flip side of that in a way where it doesn't do service to the song, it doesn't do service to the video. They don't match up together. Anyways, I was like a dog that hears a weird sound and they kind of quirk their head to the side. That was me watching the video. Like, what is this? But
well, to me, it seems like they're trying to like copy so in Russia, like weird videos like this are very common. Like for a certain EDM electric bands. There's one that I kind of like to watch some of the stuff that they come out with is called Little Big.
Yeah, we did a Little Big video.
Yeah,
about a year ago, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Little Big, their videos tend to be like really weird, and their music is great, but their music videos are amazing to watch, and that's really like the artistic style that they do there, and I feel like that's somewhat what they're trying to copy with this. But I'm just like I'm not sure. Like it's like ridiculous, like surreal imagery, and I don't know. It's just
this does not make me love the Biebs anymore. I'll read a little bit about what Mr. Cher had to say. Cool. Barrett says, and I quote, "That fucking Justin Bieber song can eat my ass." So just a reminder, this isn't a family-friendly show. Maybe should have said that before. He said it's aggressively boring, which I totally agree with. Aggressively boring. He said he was disappointed because he had a very good album a few years ago called Purpose. It had Love Yourself, Sorry, and What Do You Mean? And he thought that maybe this would be more of a satisfying pop direction, but the older that Bieber gets, the more auto-tune he uses. And he has a really good voice. It's like a guy with a full head of hair that shaves it every day, according to Cher. So, nope, there's more. And the video is balls. Probably cost $600 to make. End of rant. So that was Barrett's thoughts on
it does. I agree.
the video.
It feels very lazy. That's a good way to. Is that what he said?
Yeah, it feels it progressively progressively don't know where it went. Aggressively boring.
Like that.
Aggressively boring. Yeah.
I agree. And Bieber can Sorry's a great example of what he can accomplish if he's trying. This just felt dumb.
This is just something different. I did enjoy the every time I come around you get it done sin where he said it was Justin's producer. I thought that was a brilliant slam. So well done there. I also liked Rhea Ali's comment that said the beginning of the decade was baby, 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 and the end of the decade is yummy, yummy, yummy. I thought that was kind of cute. So anyway. And of course, the number one most loved in the comments was the auto-tuned cotton candy. So, which pretty much describes it 100%.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts on the Biebs before we go on to the main channel, the main event? Let's do it. Okay.
Hey, everyone. It's Jonathan from Behind the Sins with a brief note before we get into the CinemaSins videos for the week. We are about to start discussing Annihilation, which is a video that was viewable for about a week, but we've had some issues with it recently, so it's not viewable at the time this episode posted. But we wanted to discuss it as part of the SinSide Scoop, so here it is. Hopefully you'll be able to watch or rewatch it very soon.
So we released a couple of videos for you guys again this week. Did Annihilation and Hellboy. Let's start with Annihilation. This was Dicer Scott, both not here. So this will be a fun conversation. I do have both of their thoughts that I asked them about. We'll get to that. I guess we could start there if we want, but I am kind of curious. Creasy, did you watch Annihilation?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
What did you think?
Let me check my... I wrote down some notes. I mean, the movie itself, I still have no clue what I was watching as far as the original movie. There was a Sin 39 where he goes... where Natalie Portman says something, and then the sin is kind of like Miley Cyrus, and I couldn't help but just bust out laughing because for me, any joke at Miley Cyrus's expense is hilarious because it's kind of she's kind of like Britney Spears, like in the early 2000s. It's kind of fun to watch her go crazy sometimes, or like break down. But also, it's terrible to joke about it at the same time, but also fun. And
this realm of CinemaSins is the perfect place to do it.
That's right. Well,
so you didn't know what was going on? Because I was hoping that maybe you guys could explain this movie to me, because after watching the video, I'm super intrigued.
Have you not seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
I just don't know what it was trying to get at, like, as far as philosophically. Like, I did enjoy the fact that it was, like, a largely an all-female cast. And, Natalie Portman does a great job, to me, like, leading the story. And there's some really great, like... crazy science fiction, like what ifs, and like the idea like that, like the Shimmer was like just anything that passes through it is just changed down to its molecular level, and it also has to tie in with like what that item thinks it is, kind of thing. But like as far as like the story that the writers are trying to get at and what the director was trying to get, I have no idea still to this day.
Yeah, I saw in the theater. I remember it. I guess this was 2017. I think a couple years ago. I saw it in the theater, and I remember I found it very interesting and intriguing, and I honestly I haven't like had really any desire to watch it since. So I have never seen it again, and I did not remember a lot about it. Wasn't there even something you were talking about the female cast, Creasy, which is awesome, and I completely forgot that Tessa Thompson was in it.
Yeah, that's one of like her earlier roles before, I think. I can't remember if this came out before or
like
during
film roles. Yeah, because she was on Veronica Mars. That was the first place I remember ever seeing her. But yeah, I completely forgot she was in that because I remember seeing it, going, "Oh yeah, hey, it's a Veronica Mars girl."
Oh really? I didn't know Tessa Thompson was on Veronica Mars.
Yeah, she was on like she was I don't know if she was on the whole time. I think she might have gotten introduced in like the second season or something.
Oh, okay.
But wasn't there something too about though only women could go through that?
Well, I thought that the guy had come back through it.
Yeah, they had sent other teams, and I think this was the first one that they were sending that was all female or female.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. I thought there was something about that, but then when I was watching the video, they said the thing about Oscar Isaacs. I actually completely forgot Oscar Isaacs was in it too.
I guess it's a novel too, right?
It is. It's actually a trilogy.
Okay, maybe I should read the books.
Jeff Vandermeer is the author, and I remember I tried to read the book before I saw the movie, and I don't know if I couldn't remember if I couldn't get into it or if the movie just came out and I just said screw it, I'm going to go see the movie. But that is something I might go back to at some point because I am kind of curious where it goes after this.
Yeah, this is one of those where I'm watching it going, okay, obviously as the people who wrote on the script are watching it, there's this climax, there's this, moment in the lighthouse, there's a butthole, there's some, atom explosion happening, and then she comes out and, aliens, and then we're like, okay, oh, yeah, but what is it? What does that mean? And I know that obviously, like, the writers didn't know either. They made that, evident as they're kind of writing about like what's going on and things like that. But those are kind of fun, though. Those movies can be fun when there's not really an answer, but I like answers personally. And so I wanted more details. So I was hoping that maybe you guys had some personal experience that you could be like, oh, this is what that means.
It was hard. I didn't really know what to make of it. And like I said, I don't even remember that much about it clearly because I was watching the video and it felt like I had never seen the movie before. And I know I did.
Well, I will have to read up on some of, I'm sure, the countless blog posts out there in the internet that will be people's opinions about this movie. This video when I was watching it was one of two videos this week that had disturbing imagery that I did not expect. And oh my freaking God. I purposefully avoid, and maybe I should have asked more questions. Maybe I should just calm myself down and watch stuff. But both in Annihilation and in Hellboy, I was like, what the fuck am I watching? And then I had nightmares, even though I just watched.
What was the scene in Annihilation?
That bear thing, man. That bear thing.
That's the one scene. Well, I don't think they showed the crocodile.
No, they didn't show the crocodile, but they definitely showed the bear thing. And then the sins were all about like, this is the scariest, creepiest thing ever. And the comments, I don't know if you saw the comment section, but it is like inundated with people. In fact, the biggest comment thread that I personally have seen since starting to work here is all about that bear. It's people going, that bear freaked me out, and then like just comment after comment after comment about that bear moment in the theater.
But we don't actually see in the video, Creasy, we don't hear in the video, like we don't hear it talking, do we?
No,
we never play. Yeah, they never play that.
That's the creepy part.
Yeah, that's a terrifying
part. Because it has like the voices of like
who it's consumed.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that in this space, if I'm understanding correctly, because I'm trying to figure this out because it's fascinating to me, in this Shimmer space, you begin to kind of, I'm going to use the word splice into like your environment. So apparently the bear killed the woman, and so it's absorbed essentially part of her DNA. And so it's emitting her sounds. And then someone was talking in the comments about like it also has a human skull on one side.
Yeah, they mentioned like she was like it absorbed her. Like
right.
I think that's one of the things. Like either Tessa Thompson says it or one of the other characters. They're just like as it was killing her, it absorbed her. Like,
it's so
and what's
terrifying.
interesting, I love when stuff like this happens because we definitely don't plan stuff to this crazy of a detail. But it's interesting that there's plot points in both Annihilation and Hellboy that involves eating part of somebody and then being able to talk like them.
That's true. That's
so
an interesting
weird.
Crossover. Well, let's get into some of the sins that we love specifically. I continue to love the college girlfriend joke for how long did you think you were inside? And then that was a beautiful example of a college girlfriend joke. I also like, the who sleeps in this position where she was on the bed. And I was like, me? I sleep in, but I move around all night long. So I'm definitely that person.
No, I've definitely woken up with my butt straight in the air, kind of cocked sideways. Yeah.
Oh.
That's,
Yes.
no, I don't know how I got there, but it's just weird.
Like, I never know what position my daughter's going to be in when I go wake her up in the morning. Sometimes she's even, like, hanging off the bed. It's crazy.
I literally wrote down so many sins of watching, like, while I was watching this. The mention of Arrival I really liked because I got that vibe too. The sin about many theories, few facts, and that being Twitter, I loved. There was an American Tail reference in this one.
What was the American Tail reference?
For there are no cats in America.
I forgot that's what that was
remove all the
from.
sins if we started singing that one.
American Tail is probably also something I haven't seen since the theater, and that was, 1986? So
Streets are paved with cheese.
It's been a minute.
I don't know. I don't remember when it came out.
Yeah, it was late
definitely before I
80s
was
when it
born,
actually came out in the theater.
I enjoyed the full female sin-off in this one. I had a thought too, and maybe you guys are used to this because you've been kind of doing this for so much longer than I have, but I never realized how often in TV and movies that they give you there are two theories, and this I just sent something similar to this recently where it's like, no, there's not just two theories. There's like hundreds of options if you really start to think about it. But, a movie will do this all the time to sort of narrow the mind of the viewer to go in the direction that the story wants you to go. And they did this in this one where they're like, there's just two theories of how this happens. It's like, no, there's lots more, but that would take too much time on screen to explain. I just never realized how often that happens until starting to, do this job. So what about you guys? What was some that you enjoyed?
Science What the Fuction was a personal line that I thought was really funny. Worst use of Oscar Isaac Award I also thought was great. As far as an actual sin, though, I did like that they pointed out that they didn't black out the windows or like have blinds or something to where the workers weren't looking at the shimmer when they were in the building.
Yes.
Like, who would do that?
Yeah. It was just this blinding light, and everyone should at least be wearing sunglasses in that room.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then you mentioned aliens. That's we always, ending videos, I think, or the endings of scripts are always interesting, because you always kind of want to end on I don't know if you want to end on a bang. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but we always want to kind of, I guess, wrap things up just like you would wrap up a story. This was one of my favorites. like final sins, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Because it's like simple. It's like aliens. Like,
and
what?
it kind of like what Creasy and I are talking about this movie. Like, we just we don't know what to make of it. And I know now that we're saying this, a ton of people that listen to this are going to be like, you guys weren't paying attention. This is obviously what it means, but because we get that a lot with the when we do the mini pods and stuff and review movies. But yeah, no, I thought that was a perfect summation of like just this entire movie.
Yeah.
What stood out to you, Creasy?
One, the Miley Cyrus thing, and then there was a sin towards the end, Sin 83, where no need for drugs here, kids. The movie is literally turning into drugs right before your eyes. And it's just like, because you look at fractals and you're going to think you're stoned or on acid. Mm-hmm. Especially if those fractals look like a giant butthole floating in the air.
A space butthole.
Space butthole.
Yeah, that's for real. I forgot to read Aaron and Jeremy's comments. Maybe I should do that real quick before.
Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Aaron said he loved this movie mostly for the metaphor because it leaves a lot of the literal storytelling up for interpretation, which is fun to sin. This movie is gorgeous and moody and bonkers. It does the thing I wish us had done, which is to not try to explain things, but just show things and let us fill in the blanks or even be frustrated by not knowing. I think this movie is about toxic relationships and where the seeds of cancer in relationships develop, and how we learn to become a different version of ourselves to enjoy long-term cohabitation. That has to be why the affair stuff is in there, and the reason that the movie takes so much time on their relationship. It's also about how we can either give ourselves to change or fight it, and how change can be both destructive or beautiful. And also, if a lighthouse has a butthole, I am not crawling inside of it. So isn't that kind of cool? Like, I didn't really pick that up, but Aaron's always really good about seeing the metaphors in movies and kind of seeing the purpose of like story, and I think that's fascinating because I'm probably more like the superficial person who's like, did you see the cool trippy thing at the very end, the light thing? Yeah, man, that was an alien. And he's like, yeah, but do you realize that it was all about, you know, relationships and the seeds and the importance of change? And I'd be like, no, I missed that totally. Yeah. But now I can see that.
Yeah, I agree totally about him. That's why he's like the perfect example of what a movie critic should be, because he can take in anything and, you know, find something intelligent to say about it.
That's true.
Whereas sometimes I'm just like, I don't like anime. Sorry.
Yeah. Jeremy's thoughts. He said, I think Annihilation is pretty rad. It's a hair away from a perfect grade, only because of the story threads that disappear or go nowhere. The affair, the amnesia of 4 days' times, etc. But I love it. It's a big, colorful ball of ideas and cool visuals that the music in the climax is, and the music in the climax is spine-tingling. I remember I had to Google Terrence Malick to make sure he hadn't already done a sci-fi movie. I was forgetting he produced a documentary about space, but I decided that didn't count, and I kept the sin in. It's also noteworthy that Dice and I both wrote sins using pussy willows. We kept his because it was part of a more substantive sin, and mine was just a joke. The boys.
That's always fun. Chris and I had, I don't remember the specifics, but yeah, Chris and I had a lot of funny overlap in Hellboy, and I remember just being like, this is just nuts. Like, who comes, and it's like weird stuff too. It's not like... It's always fun when that happens.
Last thoughts, I think I had a couple more that I just wanted to mention. The Shimmer Limmer Ding Dong I really enjoyed. I kind of want to use that. Like, fool me twice, Shimmer Limmer Ding Dong in my real life. And just forego actually saying a normal, like, everyone knows this saying, and just say
that would probably
Shimmer
work
Limmer
on
Ding Dong.
Aaron's sexual euphemism list too.
There you go. Yeah. And then in this one, Jeremy's one of the sins is about getting drunk in Chicago. And I actually asked Jeremy if this was a true story, and he said it was, that this was a true story of him getting drunk in Chicago and losing time. So this sin was right around the time where the women walk in, and then 4 days later is when they start talking to each other. And he's like, losing time is super scary. And that is so true. I have been blackout drunk once in my life, and then the next day was told that I carried on entire conversations.
Yep.
I smoked a couple cigarettes, and hung out. Like, thank God nothing weird happened. But the fact that I didn't remember it is the reason I have never been, like, if I drink until I get a little bit of a happy feel, and then I just stop, because I don't know where that barrier is. I don't know how I went through it, but that legitimately scared the crap out of me to have had entire moments of life that I'm not interactive with. It just blows my mind. I can't.
I agree with you. I had to quit drinking because I'm not good at stopping once I start something like that. So, and plus I get sick, and I had some allergy issues come up, but like a couple years ago I was just like, I should probably stop doing this.
Have you ever been blackout drunk, Creasy? Is that too personal to ask?
No, it's not too personal. Yes, I have definitely been blackout drunk before in college. Lots of times where I end up somewhere where I'm like, why do I not have both my shoes? And where is my car? And where are my car keys? And I make the best snowman? You know, I just like random things. Yeah, I was a little bit of a heavy drinker in college. Of course, I wouldn't drink during the week, but then when Friday came,
right,
that's me. That was me. Yeah.
Did it freak you out, or you're just like, oh, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. When you wake up somewhere and you're like, these aren't my pants. You're just like, yeah, you're like, how did I get here?
Man,
why does my mouth taste like that?
Drink during the week and it would have been better, because I can remember times in my life where, like, Friday through Sunday I was just
God,
wasted.
That's terrifying.
No, I've never been on a bender. No.
No, I've never been on a bender either. I did ask on Twitter if other people had losing time stories. Dicer mentioned his Easter Fool's weekend of 2018. that is when his heart stopped beating, and
that's very different.
Had to be resuscitated by his wife, and the EMTs shocked his heart back to life. Then he was in a cold coma for 3 days, and he doesn't remember several weeks of all of that. Yeah. And then Mikey said that he lost time also from a bad accident, so a little bit different, but still fascinating to me. I don't know if you guys saw this tweet. He said, I was in a bad accident involving an elephant, so I'm missing the everything from that Sunday afternoon through to Wednesday morning. I argued with the fast food restaurant about whether or not zookeepers got a discount, and then I was in the ICU watching my girlfriend walking towards me. What kind of a story is that? Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
I don't know if he was charged by an elephant or what, but bodies are weird, man. Our brains will be like, nope, we're shutting down. Like, we're going to take care of business. So anyway,
yeah,
I guess
this
is
not
our
remembering things. So
I do too.
That is definitely scary.
I mean, I hate not remembering things in this context. Not remembering details about movies and stuff. I don't care.
Yeah,
bothers
that's what I meant. Like, because I don't know. And then I just, I'm with
So
you.
this is our PSA. Be careful if you drink. Don't lose time if you can help it. All right.
As they say, drink responsibly.
There you go. That's the words. Anything else before moving on to Hellboy?
Nope.
No.
All right. This is Atkinson Watkins. That's kind of fun to say. I have no experience with this movie or the previous ones.
Yeah, you're good. Don't have experience. The previous ones are okay.
Well, let me tell you a quick little backstory. My dad loves watching cheap sci-fi movie stuff. When I was growing up with him, there was always something where it was like low budget, like what's the one, like Flash Gordon style, right? Where or really any show, it didn't have to just be sci-fi. If it was like kind of like a low budget movie, he was content to watch it and kind of chuckle at stuff. So I would watch those with him. And there's something about Hellboy that sort of has that same echo to me. And aside from the really scary visuals of the creepy boob older lady, upside down, backward walker, no leg person, I don't know what she is. Which I don't know. Whatever.
Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga.
Not Baba Yaga. She's not John Wick. No.
Like stuff like that terrifies. Is really creepy.
Was that the image that got you?
There was that one, and then actually I literally have blocked it out. That there was another one that was super creepy to me, and I literally don't remember what it is.
Let me have you relive your triggers, Danae. Please tell me.
Yeah. Let me go back and watch the video and let you know exactly which one it was. But anyhow, it does have that sort of vibe to it of just sort of like a silly show. And I kind of want to go watch all of them. Just like I kind of like, oh God, what was the series? It was mentioned in this video. Milla Jovovich was in one of them.
Resident Evil or Fifth Element?
Yeah, Resident Evil. I love Fifth Element. I'm that girl. But like Resident Evil, and then there were some other ones where they're all like fighting like lichens versus...
Oh, that's not Jovovich, but yeah, Underworld. That's Kate
Underworld.
Beckinsale.
Yeah. So I remember I watched Underworld because it has that same weird vibe where it's just this cheap story feel to it. Anyway, so I just want to let you guys know that even though I have no idea what's going on, and it just seems like this, I guess Demon is just like a vigilante style show. I was like, maybe I would watch Hellboy someday. I don't know. What did you guys? What's your experience with Hellboy?
Creasy, what have you seen the Del Toro movies? Did you see this in the theater?
Yeah, I didn't see this in theater. I did see the Del Toro movies in theater, and I've read a couple of the comic books when I was younger. I definitely loved Ron Perlman as Hellboy, and I think those movies lended themselves better to the material as far as like, using practical effects to create the monsters. Even the CGI was, hands above what we saw in this one. I mean, do I think that that David Harbour did a great job as Hellboy? Oh, he did okay with the material that he was given. He's a much better actor than what we saw in this movie. And Ian McShane can act his way out of a wet paper bag, so he did he played the same character that he played in pretty much everything I've ever seen him in. But I mean, he does a good job, and I think my problem with this is like, one, the story was not very well written, and I feel like the story kind of got lost in itself a little bit. And one, you made this movie instead of giving me a Ron Perlman trilogy.
Oh well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I think that was always the plan.
Yeah,
and then the second one didn't do that well.
Yeah. My thing is the execution with this. Like, the CGI in a lot of these scenes looked really bad, especially when he's fighting the giants. And when they did use practical effects, it didn't really feel like I was like, okay, why are we jumping back and forth from really crappy CGI to really decent practical makeup and stuff like that? And to me, it was just like, I'm not understanding a lot of the decisions that were made during this movie. But I mean, at the same time, I've also never made a big feature, so I don't know what the challenges were.
Yeah, and I've read some of the comics too, but I haven't read like everything, and I don't know if the King Arthur thing is a part of the comics or not. But like, that's why we mentioned that in the Sinning, where we said, regardless, it's dumb. But yeah. I don't know why they went that route. You've got years and years of stories to pull from, and this is the movie we get. And I thought Harbor was excellent. I mean, I think Ron Perlman was excellent too, but I'm okay with like a series of new ones with Harbor. I mean, it's kind of like Batman. I mean, you could keep recasting the role and keep making Hellboy movies if you want.
Yeah, the hope is that they didn't just go, you know what, we're kind of at the end of our rope here. Let's talk about King Arthur, which I grew up watching like the Merlin stuff and King Arthur, it's fascinating to me. I've read really wonderful stories that sort of weave into that same, history and the magic and all of that. I love stories like that. So, but this one, it seemed like, and again, I'm watching this short, Sins video, but it seems like they just kept introducing characters and storylines and side things and blah, blah, blah. And it could have been cleaned up and simplified a lot, but it looked like they were just trying to answer questions about his origins and his bloodline, and but instead of getting there quickly, they kind of like meander their way there, and I don't know.
I don't remember.
Well, they're also trying to set up sequels, which is annoying because it's like I'm still not going to understand that process. I mean, I don't care if you build a franchise out of something, but you have to make a quality first film initially. So I feel like you should be concentrating on that a little more than trying to set up a world like they do in this. We even commented on that there's like 3 or 4 stingers during the credits. It's crazy.
Yeah. And also, it was confusing too to point out that they don't want Hellboy to be seen, but then he's hanging out in bars, and so okay, what is this world then? Is it a world where people are totally fine with the demons crawling up out of the earth and then going back to work later on that day? Where there's a witch in the street that's releasing a plague, but then they're still going to work that day? Like, is this like a normal thing? The sort of supernatural element, is this normal?
Yeah, no, that was they handled that very oddly in this movie, because I think he's supposed to be kind of like the Batman. I mean, he's supposed to be more of like a myth or urban legend,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But so they are a little more careful about that, I believe, from what I remember of what I've read and watched. But yeah, but then like you said, but that's why we called back to that, because I thought that was really odd. They were making such a federal case about him wandering around, but then like he was just hanging out in a bar in Mexico or whatever, Tijuana, wherever he was. And then the stuff with like, that's the whole thing at the end where we were talking about they're like giving each other high fives and stuff, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, there's like hundreds of like corpses just out on the streets of London.
And what is this whole thing like when they're riding through the woods dressed in medieval gear and one is wearing a giant deer head? And I'm like, okay, so when did they all get the medieval gear? Have we gone back in time, or is this just like a
that's
hunting
when they were
party?
Hunting giant.
This
movie's so dumb.
So giants so giants coexist in our world, or do they
Yeah,
go
all
to
mythical
portals?
creatures,
basically
all
there's
fairy
like
tale
these
creatures, yeah.
there's like these groups of people, like the BPRD would be the American version. Is that right, Creasy?
Yeah, so like they're the American. You could even say just the Allies or like the UN, like whoever. So essentially, like they have a base in the UK, but they also have most of their bases in the United States and like some small outlets and stuff like that around the world.
Interesting.
They're like
Yes.
paranormal hunters, and they try to keep everything. They try to keep a lid on all that, and apparently
Interesting.
giants occasionally
Just pop out.
pop
Yeah,
out.
they resurrect from what.
Yeah, they
Oh.
resurrect. That's what they
Yeah.
say. That's right.
Oh, okay. They resurrect. Well, see, this is the kind of stuff that, like, I genuinely like. Oh, that's interesting. I want to know more. But at the same time, if at the very end it all falls apart, there's no cohesion, then sometimes it
It
but
falls apart well before the end.
maybe I should just finish The Mandalorian, which is amazing.
Yeah, if you want quality, The Mandalorian is the way to go. No, I don't know. This was the second time I watched it because I saw it in the theater, and I really, really just remembered hating it.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times when you go back and, you have to do it for this, it's a little different of an experience. And so I still didn't like it. I don't think I hated it as much. I definitely appreciated like David Harbour's performance a lot more. And I love Mia Jovovich. I think she's
Yeah, me
great.
too.
And we even have a sin about that.
I appreciated that, by the way, because
Yeah.
she's one of my
she's
faves
awesome.
because of Fifth Element.
Now,
Chris
Fifth
said
Element's a good
Hellboy.
movie. I would. It's silly, but it's good. I think it's
Yeah.
a little. I think it's a little too. I'm trying to think how to say that. I think there's a lot of ideas there that they could have pulled back a little bit, but no, it's a
Hellboy
very
or
entertaining
Fifth
movie.
Element?
Huh?
Fifth Element?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. Yeah, but I do quite enjoy that one. But like the Resident Evil movies are pretty much garbage, and this was bad. And I mean, she's in that movie Ultraviolet, and
She deserves better.
Yeah, she does.
Chris said about Hellboy that it is a egregious misfire. It feels like a whole bunch of this movie is on the cutting room floor. So many villains and way too much what the fuckness that is not explained. Or he said WTFness that is not explained. And I feel like that's the bulk of the sins in the script, just not knowing what the hell is going on. It seems like they were trying to put out a bunch of potential sequel bait before making a basic Hellboy movie. David Harbour is it, how do you say his name? Harbour?
Yeah.
David Harbour is great in it, and that's a shame for this movie that he's in it. So, anyway, then that's a shame for the movie he's in, is what he said. Not that he's in it. It's a shame for the movie that he's in for his talents. I want to make sure not to misquote Chris there.
I agree with everything he's saying.
There's our thoughts there. Let's talk about just some specific sins before moving on. I really like the arrow down asking for a handy. That was super funny to me.
Oh, and that was actually one where we had an overlap. We both had penis jokes.
It's funny
Couldn't even
because
tell you if that was mine or his, but I just remember we both had, because it was so weird. It was just because he had it on his lap.
Yeah, but just like you guys are like, oh, I would have never thought of that because, that's your perspective, Danae. That's one that I think I would have totally missed. Maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know, but it cracked me up whenever I saw
Because
it.
you lack a penis?
I just don't think like that, I guess.
I don't know. You're looking up goats mating. I don't know. Just
Wait, no.
Watching,
Don't misquote me.
watching granola people pee off cliffs.
That was added in their story. I did not ask for it nor search for it. I loved also, this is kind of similar to what I mentioned just a moment ago, that the prophecy rants being vague and bullshitty. That's another thing that I am starting to recognize more and more as I watch, is that, yeah, there are a lot of just these vague prophecy things, and I don't really ever think about, that. Specifically, I guess, the part about it being from a holy tongue, and then I guess a pig put a tongue of a holy man into his mouth and then is able to open a chest, but then later on he's able to just break it with his arm. I don't know. It was that whole
That
thing
was that was another weird parallel between scripts Chris and I had worked on recently, because before this we did The Grudge, and The Grudge also has that problem where it's a curse, but not a prophecy, but it still kind of works the same.
Yeah.
And it's really vague. And it gets to the point where you're just like, well, why isn't everyone in Tokyo cursed? Like, if this is all it takes, and you kind of have the same thing here, it just doesn't. I don't know how anyone could accomplish whatever they're trying to do with that knowledge of that prophecy.
Just a few others that I really liked before you guys talk about specific sins. If you have any, I like the whole point about a guy that should have shot another guy instead of just running up to him and trying to fight him. The whole kind of series there, I kind of liked. I like pointing that kind of stuff out because I do regularly wonder why if someone's got a weapon that's a long distance weapon, they would ever just run up on someone and try to beat him up. That's just weird. Hellboy, the Yada Yada Chronicles, really enjoyed that one. And then Jeremy doing a Brit voice, Brit accent. Super enjoyed
and
that.
Was not like that wasn't in the script at all. Like he just like halfway through that he just changed to a Brit accent, which was great.
Oh God, I loved it so much.
And got him to sing too. Got him to sing The Who.
Which is always so fun to hear Jeremy have a good time with the narration.
that was the Baba Yaga reference. Which the Who song is Baba O'Reilly. But,
okay.
But
I missed
but
that.
But for some
crossover.
reason, when he said Baba Yaga, that was like what I thought of was
sure.
So,
Creasy, did anything stand out to you that you wanted to point out before moving on?
There was one mention of a Dr. like the Dr. Phil joke. I mean, they already have a soap opera and Dr. Phil, but. Who doesn't need another good cry? I love that little reference. And then there was a scene where like the narration was talking about them being high on a hilltop, but then like we cut to a cave on the beach side, and it's just like,
yes,
who didn't catch that? Like who in like doing voiceover and editing this was like, yo, you guys know that they say hilltop, right? Like I get that there's a hill there, but they're on the bottom.
Yeah. It's a shoreline.
Yeah.
That was really
I
good.
heard this is off subject, but this made me think of this. I heard a really funny story the other day. Creasy, do you remember that show Terra Nova with the?
Oh, yes, I used to love that show. Oh,
okay.
Bad sci-fi, I love it.
Yeah, did you happen to watch that, Danae? Came out of like a few years ago with the dinosaurs. It's like probably the most expensive TV flop ever.
We've talked about it on the show before, but no.
That's right, we have.
Yeah, but I haven't watched it.
A writer, a podcast I listened to, a writer for other things that just happened to work on a couple episodes of that they were asking him about Terra Nova, and he was talking about how when he got there they had already filmed the pilot, and he watched the pilot, and they just asked him for any ideas he had, and one of the things he said he mentioned was he's like, it looks like they're driving around in like gas powered vehicles. He's like, you realize if they're with the dinosaurs, they don't have fossil fuels yet, right? So he's like, so where are they getting this gas? And then he said the people were just basically like, oh, no one will notice that. It's okay.
Yeah, that's a good
for some reason, that just made me think of that when you said that, like no one even thought to change that, So this is what's going on in writers' rooms, everybody.
Everybody is so interesting.
That we are not wrong.
No. Nope. No. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap up for our thoughts on the SinSide Scoop. Let's move on to keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Ha ha! Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
So in Keeping Tabs, we talk about things that we researched this week. And Creasy, I don't know if you had to do any research for your job that you found interesting this week. But sometimes when we'll like open up a tab on our browser and we'll go to like look something up and realize that maybe we shouldn't be Googling this, or maybe this is just kind of a funny thing behind the scenes to share with you. So let's start with Jonathan. Jonathan, did you have to look up anything interesting this week for Keeping Tabs?
I did not really have anything that I had to do research on. I did have a deleted sin. This is going to be really quick, but I did have a deleted sin I wanted to mention because I was actually shouting out one of our longtime listeners and video viewers, our good friend Frank Kemp. It's in Hellboy, I think it's when he's with Baba Yaga, I guess. But he asked the question, "Where am I?" And then the comment is bacon, eggs, and black pudding. Do ya? And then I put bacon, eggs, and black pudding is oddly enough a strip club I once attended. It's in Delaware, and much like that state, there is no good reason to go. And our good friend Frank lives in Delaware, so
I see. Okay,
that was why I picked that state over all the other ones. So hopefully he's listening, and he knows I'm a dick.
Well, we all know that. No.
I didn't really look up anything, so I was just looking for deleted sins that were kind of fun.
Creasy, did you have anything from this week that you had to do in your world? Obviously not sins related to writing sins, but did you have to do any kind of interesting research or anything like that?
You know what? I did. I was doing some research just to see, like, just for the movies that are coming out this year, and I saw that that Tenet had like over a $205 million budget before a media budget. So
I saw that.
It's gonna be amazing. What is Christopher Nolan gonna do with a budget that large? And I just can't wait to see what he does with it. Because just from the little short that they had before Rise of the Skywalker, and then the little trailer that they put out a couple weeks ago, or right before the New Year. I'm super pumped for that. So I was like, that much money on a Nolan movie makes me so happy.
Budgets are so dumb these days, though. I don't understand, like, because you don't get like $40 million films anymore.
No,
you get either like 10 million or less, or maybe 15 million or less, or you get like 150 or more. Like, there's no in between anymore, and it's the craziest thing. I don't understand the reasoning, because I can't imagine you would need to spend $205 million on that movie.
Well, I imagine like a lot of that budget probably comes down to computer generated stuff and CGI.
Yeah, maybe.
And I also don't know how much like some of the actors were making for it, like what cut of that is their salary and what they're walking away with. But I know that I'm really excited to like.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely excited. I'm curious if it's. I'm sure it'll be a hit, but I don't even know how much it has to. Because I think you have to double. Do you have to double your budget to profit? Is that right? Is that kind of the rule of thumb?
I think that's so. I think you want to make like,
and that's
you want to at least break even,
I think.
And then anything after that, yeah.
Because I think worldwide, you have to factor in other people getting a piece of it. So I think worldwide, it almost has to like triple.
So earlier, whenever we were looking at Annihilation, I was looking up some info, and it said that the box office was 43.1 million, and the budget was 40 to 55 million. So does that mean that one didn't do well?
No, it definitely didn't. It did okay, I guess, but no, it definitely wasn't a hit. I don't know. I wonder what the worldwide was, though.
It says like the budget for Annihilation was 40 to 55 million, but the box office was 43.1.
Yeah, so that's not great.
Yeah, it sounds like it just a little bit broke even on.
Yeah, it's not like a bomb, but that's definitely not anything great. It also ruined my point about there's no $40 million movies anymore.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm here for you.
No, but it does. But it's just like if you look back, like especially like in the 90s when. I also think Hollywood didn't know what they were doing as far as the way they were spending. Most studios, they would have like a big movie a year, maybe that was like close to 100 million or something that they would spend, and then everything else would be like 30 to 40.
Crazy.
And you just don't really get those middle tier movies anymore, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, also you got to add in like how much is their media, like their ad buy budget and stuff like that, because sometimes that could be like 100 million to 50 million, depending on how many markets they're trying to like saturate.
Oh my God, yeah. I can't. I honestly. I don't know. I know Disney has to be making a mint, but their spending is insane. Just like Netflix has that issue too.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, thanks for participating and keeping tabs. I know it's a little bit weird and different, but that's a perfect example of something that you looked up. Yeah. For me this week, I'm going to talk about Shrimply Pebbles. I just want to make sure I'm going to put one final time, y'all, and then I did actually copy and paste this directly from IMDb as a comment on
name.
On YouTube.
We should have a Shrimply Pebbles segment.
It's actually the name of my hard drives at work.
I love it. Rick and Morty TV series Shrimply Pibbles on Interdimensional Cable 2 Tempting Fate 2015. Werner Herzog is listed as the Shrimply Pibbles voice. Yep. That's my keeping tabs for this week. I will continue to try to let this go. All right.
Somebody actually mentioned, there was a comment about that, though, where I guess I didn't copy that one down, but I swear one of the comments said they got it wrong on IMDb, too. It's like, how do you know that?
Well, that's just what we're seeing, people. So that's just what we're going to do.
Oh, well, it's like, what are we supposed to go by? You know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Our hearts. We're going to go just off of our hearts. Just wildness and craziness. All right, let's move on to the comment section.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
This is my favorite part, that and the feedback questions. And today, since we don't have Mr. Follow the Rules of the Show, Aaron Dicer, we're going to spend the next 5 hours talking about my favorite comments from this last week.
Go for it.
Creasy, did you go on and see any comments that you thought were interesting or fun that you wanted to call out?
Yeah, I had mentioned them when we were talking over the sections, but I mean, like, there were a few that were just, like some gems. There were some that were definitely mentioning, like, Ron not making a Ron Perlman trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, I mentioned most of them earlier, so
cool. Mr. Jonathan.
The one I'll mention, because I've mentioned a few of them, we talked about the pulling the helmet off, and we talked a little bit about we talked about the code at the beginning of Mandalorian, right? Didn't we mention a comment about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The cape, yeah.
But I do have another one from the Mandalorian where, and I thought this was just interesting because I didn't think about it this way, but this is brilliant. Andrew Tucker said, it only just occurred to me as he was sending it that when Mando said, bring him in hot or cold comment, he was actually referring to the carbonite freezing and not just making a death threat. I mean, he wasn't calling out our sin. I mean, our sin still stands. That was definitely a hard way or easy way. But I didn't think about it, that it was.
I didn't either.
It was a literal thing.
Yeah, I didn't either, and I love that comment. That's why I think the comment section's fun for me, is I do get to learn some things.
Because we can't catch everything. But that was great.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I went to My Hero Academia to find some. Noobly Plays said, so just to make this clear, you didn't really start a series in the middle of its second season and expect it to make sense, right? And the comment from J Kidd is the one that I really wanted to focus on, which I thought was brilliant. J Kidd said, no, he started in the middle because he was annoyed at his fan base bugging him to death on making a video on this specific episode, so he did, skipping the entire first season to send this show as hard as he could so everyone who was pestering him would shut up about it.
That's not quite right.
Not quite right, but hilarious nonetheless. I think that wraps it up for comment section. It's a quick one this week. We're going to move on to feedback and questions. So this is from MJ. I want to just go right into some fun stuff. We got a direct feedback from you guys. This is from MJ about our conversation on grunge last week, and I wanted to read it to you guys.
Okay.
MJ said, I grew up in a crappy town in Washington. Let me tell you a little bit of backstory first. MJ reached out and said, hey, is it okay if I tell you my thoughts on grunge music? And I'm like, yeah, my DMs are open for a reason. I love hearing your guys' thoughts. And so this was kind of a cool moment where we got to talk about music and its impact in our lives. And so this was grunge music's impact on MJ. So I grew up in a crappy town in Washington, and most of my life I struggled socializing and meeting people, and I still do sometimes, to be honest. I was suffering from depression pretty heavily and was considering suicide, but I was introduced to grunge by someone I went to school with, and a lot of what they were singing about was stuff I felt and things I was going through. After I went and got help and have been getting better, I've been able to find myself and get off drugs, moved to Seattle, and have made something with myself. And I contribute a lot of that to hearing people struggling with the same stuff that I did, or the same stuff I was at the time through grunge rock. So we didn't poo-poo on grunge at any point, I don't feel. And I made sure, like, oh, did you think, that we were kind of like...
Yeah, no, I don't think we did at all. I talked about how much I liked it.
Yeah, and same thing. MJ was like, no, I didn't get that. I just wanted to really highlight. And so we had a great just back and forth there for a little bit about how music of all genres can make an impact in ways you don't expect. And sometimes there's genres where, like maybe genres where they're, scream singing or something. And to you, it doesn't sound like anything, but to someone else, it's like a salvation moment where they can super
That's
relate.
a great thing about music.
Yeah. So thank you for that feedback on last week's episode. And then also this week from Brady on Twitter, what happened to the troublesome outtake from Zombieland 2? Is it gone? Is it erased from existence? Is it reduced to atoms? Also a nice callback because you remembered that conversation. Jonathan, I don't think we have gone back in and tried
we had to move some videos around. And so we had the previously on was from The Mandalorian, but we were actually releasing The Mandalorian later.
Yes. So we had to kind of snip it off.
We had to correct that. But if you're a patron, patrons, I don't want to steal Aaron's thing. Can I say patrons get those perks?
Sure.
But no, but seriously, but if you're, some patrons got to see that because I believe on the Patreon page, it played as normal.
Yeah.
And then we corrected it for the, and that wasn't like on purpose. It just, the way things worked out.
Yeah. And we're going to try to,
it for the mass release.
And we'll try to go back in and see if we can get it on the main channel too.
Yeah,
but we
it might.
I don't know if it's back about that yet.
We were talking about doing that.
Yeah.
But Aaron was about to go hang out with Quentin Tarantino. So.
Right.
So he might have been a little too busy.
Whatever, busyness. But thank you for the tweet because that reminds us to go back and make sure that we have an opportunity to do those things. All right, and now back to the question that I actually sent you guys in your email. This comes from Seth. He says, "Hey, B-Teamers, I'm curious if you all as writers or people, in Creasy's case, I mean, he's technically writes stuff on email, so you're a writer too, I guess.
Are writers not people?
No, we're aliens. I'm curious if you guys have specific language or grammar pet peeves, anything that makes you twitch when editing or when watching a movie or reading a book. The latter only for Jonathan and Danae, since I'm told Aaron can't read. That's true. It's tragic. It's true. Yeah, he has a really difficult time with that. Thank you for pointing that out. Hopefully he won't listen to the show and be self-conscious. Anyways, he says, since I've got your attention now, here's a few of his. This begs the question, followed by the question, is one that bothers him. This is never, ever correct. Begging the question is a specific thing. It's not that, which I didn't really think about. And he actually points out that we do this like on our show. So we drive him nuts. Comprised of, also never correct. The whole comprises the part. So the United States comprises 50 states, not the United States is comprised of 50 states. I'm going to blame my teachers on this one. I wasn't taught correctly. So that's 2 out of these 4 that I fail on. Putting an S on things where it's not needed, either where an apostrophe or without, as in daylight savings. It is daylight saving, singular, or Groundhog's Day when it is Groundhog Day. I used to do that one. I stopped because I got called out on radio. And the last one referenced is hone in on. I did not know this. It's home in on. I don't agree with you, by the way.
I think hone is a word, so yeah.
Yeah, I think they both. I think technically they both work. I mean, maybe like that is the quote unquote correct way to do it, but I think they've both been accepted. Although there are some things that have become accepted just because so many people do it. Webster finally just said, "All right, fine, we'll put that in the dictionary."
I'm loving Seth, his little snarkiness, and he goes on. He finishes by saying, "Now, what I'm really looking for here is for you to mention your co-writer's verbal or written tics that make you twitch. Fight!" And then mentions he has heard us use these on his list before. God bless you for continuing to listen, even though we apparently drive you insane. Creasy, why don't you start? Do you have one of these that kind of drives you nuts? Either one on the list that you're like, yep, that's one of mine, or one that you could think of?
I tend not to judge people's grammar or how they write because one, I am notorious for not putting apostrophes where they need to be, or commas, or semicolons. So I tend not to judge when it comes to grammar. I blame it on my Mississippi public education.
There you go.
But no, I mean, I really don't have any tics for people's verbal things or unfortunately. That's one of those mine usually my tics usually come from like habits that people have of like doing a thing like clicking their jaw or like popping their fingers or something like that.
Yeah.
But nothing from their like lingual pet peeves.
Jonathan?
It's funny, the S thing, I didn't even think about this, even though I read that in the email. I didn't think about this till now. But the one thing here, which, I mean, you guys have these too, but people call the grocery store a lot of the time Kroger's. That drives me absolutely nuts. Because there is no S on the end of that. That just made me think of that when he was talking about the S on the end of things. But first off, we write mostly dialogue, which is very different than writing like non-dialogue, I guess. Because with dialogue, we can kind of like play with words and create our own words and. We obviously still have to try to stick with like commas and apostrophes in the correct places and stuff, but like our wording can kind of vary with dialogue just because this is somebody saying something as opposed to something else. I hope that made sense. I don't know why. That made more sense in my head than when I started talking about it.
I have that happen to me all the time.
I know, it's crazy, but and then I like Creasy. I try not to judge too much on what people say because. Talking, especially like when we're doing a podcast or something, I mean, a lot of it is just, stream of consciousness and, you're just going to say things incorrectly sometimes. But as far as writing, as far as like when I'm reading a book or something, I think this is pretty normal for a lot of people. Like overuse of adverbs gets on my nerves. Living in the South, I get really irritated hearing you did good. Or just using good instead of well. I think that's a pretty common thing for people in the South to get irritated with. Ending a sentence with a preposition is always annoying. And then the big one for me is people that don't know the difference between figuratively and literally.
Mm-hmm.
God, that kills me.
Yeah.
When people say things like, I literally shit my pants, you're just kind of like, that must have sucked.
Yeah.
So you're not a Chris Traeger fan then, I guess.
Huh?
Said you're not a Chris Traeger fan. Or Rob Lowe.
I don't know who that is, but sure.
It's Rob Lowe's character on Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
That's like his catchphrase.
You're right. Yeah, that's right. He does say literally a lot. Yeah.
I'll answer one for Aaron. I've worked with him long enough that we've kind of talked about this before. There's one that stands out, and it's where people say like ATM machine when the M stands for machine. So you're saying automated whatever machine.
Yeah, he points that out a lot, like in shows and stuff. Like he'll make that sin.
So that's
a lot of scripts.
I know off the top of my head that one. For me, it's R's where they're not supposed to be in words, and that's in spoken language. Benjamin, Warsh. Benjamin drives me crazy. My brother's name is Benjamin, and so my mom would always get frustrated when people misspoke. And I live in the Ozarks, and so there's some hillbillyisms that happen here, and R in words is definitely one of them. Personally, the other ones that drive me crazy is when people say could have instead of could have. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's conjunction. It's could have. But when they're writing it out, if it's could and then the word OF, I'm like, well, that's one that just sort of gets me. But the biggest one is misusing I could care less. People say I couldn't care less versus I could care less. That one, it kind of tweaks my brain because then I have to do the mental math and then just go, you know what? I know what you mean. And I'm kind of with you, Creasy. I kind of go with the I know what you mean version of stuff. So it doesn't drive me nuts like it used to, especially since I know that I mess up stuff all the time. So it's just kind of what language is. Language evolves. In fact, I believe that the word literally was changed in the dictionary to include both versions. Where
Probably.
You're being sarcastic.
That's kind of what happens.
At this point in language, it just changes. So
yeah, That's like ain'ts in the dictionary. I mean,
Yeah.
eventually they're just like, yeah, you can use it for this. That's fine.
But I think yeet is in the dictionary now too, right? Like,
There you go.
Oh my God, really? I didn't know that. It's
Everything's
interesting
in
what you
there.
said about like the putting the R and then you use the name. I don't know if this really goes with grammar, and I've talked about this before, but when someone introduces themselves to you, call them by the name they told you.
Yes, instead of saying, "Oh, it's nice to meet you, John."
Yes. If
Yeah.
they say Jonathan, let's go
Call
with
them
Jonathan.
Jonathan. Yeah. They say it that way for a reason. If they say Michael, don't call him Mike. That's
There was somebody
rude.
on Twitter, a guy that I guess I follow. His name is also Jonathan, and there was some thing going around on Twitter recently about what people call you. And his name is Jonathan. He was saying it irritates him when people call him Jono, and I'm like, oh, that's a new one. I have never heard that one.
Jono.
Thank
oh my
God.
gosh. That's crazy. Thanks for sending in your guys' questions and comments. And also, thanks for enduring this extra long segment today. Let's move on to Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wildest dream.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
So here we are in the final leg of the show. And Beyond the Sins, we like to chat about something else from the pop culture world that you have seen or interacted with recently that you just kind of want to give a shout out to. I'm going to throw it to Creasy again.
Yep.
Is there something that you would like to highlight, either something that you've watched or played or whatever that you want to tell all of the wonderful people about?
Well, I will talk about this show that I think doesn't get a lot of like press and highlight, or it is now, I guess. I watched Hank Azaria's Brockmire, which I didn't realize how good a show that was until I binge watched it all in one weekend. Because I'd watched this first season once before, and I was just like, oh, this is a funny concept of a drunk baseball announcer who's ruined his life and has become like an internet sensation, but then ends up having to restart his career in this like just crap hole of a town that has to like just kind of make his way back up. And it's a really interesting take on functional alcoholism in a way. But it's just so funny. Hank Azaria's, the way he narrates and the way the character talks about himself in the third person is so hilarious. So I kind of like just burnt through that with my roommate this weekend, and that's been one of the great things, one of the great shows that I've kind of found that I haven't seen a lot of. Because he does a really great job of storytelling in the weirdest of ways.
Yeah, I believe the final season's about to air.
Yeah, I think it has a
that's
season
right.
4 on Hulu. Yeah,
I think there's a new season starting here shortly, and it's going to be the final. I think that's right.
Cool.
I need to watch this show. I will say, I think the reason I didn't start watching it is because I'm a huge baseball fan, and I like Hank Azaria. And I know this isn't directly about baseball, but he is a baseball announcer, so it should be interesting to me. But IFC original programming has not been my favorite thing. There's something about it that just doesn't click with me, like stuff like Portlandia and Comedy Bang Bang. So I think that's kind of why I was a little leery to watch this. But I've had so many people tell me that I'd love it that I guess I have to give it a shot.
Do it.
And now you're
in all of your
recommending
free
it, so.
time. Do it.
Hank Azaria through the series does a really great way of like he's kind of commenting on someone who doesn't know anything about the internet at the beginning, and then he's kind of commenting on the internet itself and what it's doing to our culture, and then like the third season is like kind of a little bit about that. Like these are not like main themes in the show, but like they're in the background, and he's like,
gotcha. Yeah, because isn't he like trying to stay relevant?
Essentially, yeah. He starts a podcast, not to ruin and spoil anything for anybody, but that ends up generating a ton of money. Ends up being the second podcast in the U.S. on the show, but he's still broadcasting baseball, which is his passion. But he's definitely making less money doing that than what the other stuff. So.
But it's kind of funny because, I mean, that's one area I don't think things have really changed that much, like as far like broadcasting, sports. I'm sure they will eventually, and I guess you probably do get a little more statistical analysis and stuff like that than you used to. And maybe once some of these older people like Joe Buck and Collinsworth and all these people, once they retire eventually, maybe the younger people will be a little different. But I don't know. That's an interesting subject.
All I know is if Brockmire, if Hank Azaria as Brockmire was to call a Cubs game, I'd watch it. I just sometimes
I like Len and JD. Leave Len and JD alone.
Yeah, no, it's just sometimes listening to them talk about the game is not as interesting as like hearing them talk about the game, but also talking about other things going on in the game instead of just statistics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You kind of miss like that Harry Carey.
Yeah, well, because baseball's gotten so slow. By
like the 6th inning, you're always like, is this the day he's going to fall out of the booth when he sings the 7th inning stretch?
Yeah.
Aw, poor Harry Carey.
Yeah. Other than that, I've just been playing video games. I finished Jedi Fallen Order, and I've started that Outer Worlds game the other night.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of that means, but I'm glad you're enjoying it.
That's okay. I didn't know what any of the previous stuff was, so we make a great team.
I have heard it. I know Jedi Fallen Order. I mean, I know it exists. Like I've seen a lot of people tweet about it. My daughter's getting more into games. I might actually, like, with these new systems coming out this Christmas, we might be getting our first system.
Cool.
Because there's a new Xbox and a new PlayStation that are supposed to drop right around Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah, just make sure you buy the right Xbox.
What do you mean?
Because the name of it's just so ridiculous. It's like the Xbox One Series X or something like that.
Would you recommend Xbox over PlayStation just in general?
If you're going to buy an Xbox, I'd just say buy a PC. And then, because to be honest, you'll get pretty much the same titles on that, and then you'll have a better system because if you just build up your own computer, which I did recently this time last year. But I'm a Sony fandom. I have pretty much every PlayStation console except for PlayStation 2. So I'll probably end up getting the 5 eventually.
I haven't heard anything, because I haven't looked into it, about Google's gaming system that they just came out with. That is it into it like any Chrome? Like you plug in essentially like a little Chrome dongle into a smart computer, and then that's the gaming. So you pretty much just can take it wherever you go with you. Have you guys seen that?
Stadia, apparently it's supposed to work on any device as long as you have Stadia downloaded. And then it has like a box for your TV. I haven't played it myself, but the internet has roasted it really hard.
Have it? Okay. Yeah. I haven't looked at any of the reviews. I was going to wait to see. But for me, I'm fully mobile gaming, just as a mom, having lost all of my free time. I don't get to just sit down and like play a game anymore. So, but I also did PlayStation, and we really enjoyed our PlayStation a lot. So.
But when your daughter gets older, if she's into gaming, you'll play games with her.
Which would be sweet.
Yeah.
Immediately teach her how to play those shooter games and we can go snipe people.
Cool. Well, when it gets closer to Christmas 2020, I might holler at you, Creasy.
Oh, yeah. More than welcome.
Hey, Jonathan, I'm going to have you finish this segment. So I'm going to just slide in. Speaking of games, I do have a game this week, but this time it's not a mobile game. This is actually a tabletop game that you can play with your friends and family. It's called Sagradah, Sagrada.
Is this the one you were tweeting about that your aunt got you?
Yeah, I really freaking like this game a bunch. I think it's like, I want to say about $40 to get the game itself, which, if I remember correctly, is about how much it costs to play. I just lost the name of the game. Maybe it'll come to me later on. So I would say it's not like, $40 to buy a game isn't super cheap. But essentially you have like, it's a draft dice game that is also about making like a little stained glass window art project. So mixed with cleverness. I don't know how to describe it 100%, so just go look at it. If you're looking for a game to play with your family, you have like your own little board in front of you, and that's like your quote-unquote stained glass window. And then they have colorful dice, and you pull a certain number of dice out, you roll them, and you try to put them into your stained glass window in a particular pattern. Some of it's a pattern that they give to you that you have to put where it is on your little board, and some of it's stuff that you kind of get to decide yourself. It's not technically supposed to be about the colors and how pretty they are. You also have like objectives each round that you play. So like, for example, maybe your objective is that you get as many pairs of 1s and 2s as possible. So whenever you're looking at the dice that have been rolled and there's like a 2, you might want to place it because you can get extra points for that later on. So anyhow, there's lots of different objectives. There's different tools that you can play. It's all explained really, really well. My husband and I do not like to play games together very often, but we play this one as often as possible because it's genuinely a lot of fun, and they just came out with an expansion pack. So we're going to be getting new little inserts and some new dice and some new objectives. So it's not like a dice game like I love, because you guys know I love D&D. It's not that. It's kind of more clever placement of dice on a board where the colors aren't touching and the numbers aren't touching, but you're still getting your objective. So there's definitely logic involved, and it is a really fun game, I think. So again, it's called Sagradah.
That sounds awesome. I'm really curious, though. Why do you guys not like to play games together? Does one of you not like to lose? Is it a competitive thing?
No, I don't know. We just don't make time to do it. We have our own stuff. No, we did used to play a game called Gubs together regularly, and that was a lot of fun too. That we played. What that freaking name of that game? It just is right there on the tip of my tongue. It's one where if Aaron would hear, he'd be able to tell me. It's like it's a game where there's a breakout happening. Let me see if I can look it up super quick.
No, my wife is so competitive though that like she wouldn't play games with me for a while because she didn't want to be mad at me because I beat her if I did.
Yeah, we've gotten better at that.
Huh?
Pandemic. That's the name. Pandemic. Oh. If you've never, Pandemic is another kind of more expensive board game where you're having to buy a game that costs a little bit more than like a $20 simple game or something, or a $5 digital game.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember if that's based off of a computer game first though. Pandemic?
I don't know. I really like that game. That's a fun one.
Board games are super interesting now. There's a lot of, I think people are having to be more creative with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stuff out there.
A lot of Kickstarter funded games out there too.
A lot of Kickstarter, a lot of Kickstarter, Patreon.
Well, this is definitely one I would recommend. You have your own personal objectives, and that's kind of fun. And then at the end, you tally up all of your points, and you see who wins. It is beautiful to look at. The colors are really, really pretty. So Sagradah is my suggestion this week. All right, Jonathan, what about you?
I wanted to herald the wonderful, wonderful pilot that I watched last week for Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist.
Oh yeah,
on
I've been
NBC.
seeing a lot of buzz about that.
Yeah, and it didn't do great. I don't know if it's getting, because I mean, network viewing and TV viewing in general is so weird these days. So it's possible that its delayed viewing is bumped it up a bunch. I did notice that NBC released it on YouTube, and that's got almost 8 million views. So, So hopefully people are checking it out. It's not going to come back though till February 16th, which is a Sunday. That's going to be its normal night, but it's one of the best pilots I've ever seen. I don't know, like it's really hard to talk about TV shows and you've only seen one episode. Yeah. But I'm definitely in for the long run, at least for the first season, to see where it goes. But Jane Levy, for those that don't know, Jane Levy plays a character named Zoey, who is a coder, which is a really interesting job that I don't see often shown in television and movies. She's a coder for this company that develops apps, and she has recently. Her father has come down with a really I don't think they say the disease, but it's some kind of thing where he keeps losing different abilities, and when the show starts at this point, like he's basically just a vegetable. Like he can sit up and he can they have to feed him. He can't talk and all that kind of stuff. So she's having really hard times with that, and she's getting these headaches, and so she is a little concerned that something's wrong with her. So she goes and checks it out, and she gets a CAT scan. And while she's in there, there's an earthquake, and because they're in San Francisco, and the guy that's running the scan is playing music, and somehow through the earthquake and her being stuck in that machine, all this music basically goes into her mind. And then she discovers soon after that she can basically see people's innermost thoughts that are shown to her in song and dance, is the best way I could describe this.
Ooh, that kind of reminds me of that the one that we talked about before with Bjork. Although it's a really dark movie, but the Dancer in the Dark.
Oh, yeah. Well, it also reminded me, there was a show a few years ago called Eli Stone. It only lasted a season, and it was definitely more, I would say it was more based on the idea that God was possibly speaking to him. That was about a guy that got, he found out he had a spot in his brain that could possibly turn into, or is an aneurysm. Would you actually call something an aneurysm if it hasn't actually exploded?
I don't know.
I think so. It's like a possible aneurysm.
Yeah, so I guess he had something going on in his brain to where that could possibly happen, and then he started thinking that a God was speaking to him through song. As far as they haven't mentioned God on this show yet, so I don't know where they're going with this. But it's just a really clever idea. Jane Levy is awesome. She was in Suburgatory, which I think is still one of the most underrated sitcoms of all time, from about 10 years ago. And more recently, she was on the first season of Castle Rock. She's been in various movies. She's great. Peter Gallagher plays her dad that's unfortunately dealing with the disease. There's a beautiful scene where he ends up singing to her. Skylar Austin from the Pitch Perfect movies, he plays her coworker. I can't think of her name all of a sudden, but the woman from Gilmore Girls plays her boss.
I'm not good at that. Aaron's really good at it. Let's just pretend that we heard the right answer. Yeah, that's it.
It's hold on one second, I can find it. Although I hate this IMDb page because they lift everybody in order, so you have to actually go down. Lauren Graham is her boss. But anyways, it's a wonderful show. I urge everyone to go check it out. Like I said, you can watch it on YouTube right now for free. So I urge everybody to go check it out. I think it's going to be a really cool show. I hope it ends up being a really cool show, but it's definitely started off well. And so that's my recommendation for the week.
Well, yeah, cool. I hope it turns out great, because I remember Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was in that same vein where it was just musically based as far as how they delivered a lot of the story elements.
That's probably a good comparison too. I did not watch that. My wife did, but I did see bits and pieces of it. Yeah, it's very similar, and also it kind of feels like The Good Place. Like as far as the style, it's very different than The Good Place, but it just, I don't know. It kind of feels like it fits in that type of viewership.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's good suggestions all around, which means, y'all, we're at the end of our show today. Once again, I don't have a script to go off of here, so let's just sound off.
Creasy, you got any plugs or anything?
Yeah, Creasy, you have anything I don't know, that your Twitter or project that you're working on, or just anything else that you want to let everybody know is up in your world?
I can get ahead on my Twitter is at the Creasy. Nothing that I can really talk about as far as what I'm working on, but there's some good stuff coming down the line.
Top secret?
Yeah, not top secret, but just NDA. No, just but there's some great stuff coming down from us at Made in Network. So if you you'll see some great projects and videos coming from a lot of our creator clients, like you guys at CinemaSins, coming down the pipeline. So it'll be great. And plus, with Sins Week coming up, I'm starting to get messages about logo designs and everything else this morning. So it'll be fun.
It's time. It's pretty much go time. Jonathan, where can people connect with you?
You can reach me on Twitter at SamLoomis13, and that's really basically the only place I'm at.
And for me personally, I'm on Twitter at Danae Says, DeneeSays. And of course, we have our podcast Twitter, which is CinemaSins BTS on Twitter. You can find us there. Our email is bts@cinemasins.com or behindthesins@cinemasins.com. There's lots of ways to reach us. And of course, just a quick reminder, you want to check your email if you are on the BTS newsletter. Some fun stuff is happening behind the scenes that you are going to want to know about. And if you aren't signed up for our newsletter, you can go do that right now at cinemasins.com/BTS. That's a lot of information, none of which is what Aaron does, but he's not here.
It's always weird to have to switch to behind the scenes too for me.
I know.
Like, you're like behind the scenes of behind the sins.
The sins. Yeah, just imagine it's Sins Week. It's going to be that all the time, non-stop. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you so much for rating and reviewing the show. You guys are the cream of the crop of the CinemaSins fans. You not only watch the videos, but you want to know more about how they're put together, and we can't thank you enough. Our download numbers continue to rise. That's always super exciting for us to see because we can get some attention from some sweet sponsors and maybe even do more fun giveaway stuff for you guys in the future. So all the shout outs and all the positivity, we really appreciate. You can send all your questions, comments, and feedback to us, and we'll see you guys next week. Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to behindthesinspod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe or message us at Twitter. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Well, friends, we did it. And now it's time for the part of the episode where I leave extra audio for Jonathan, just in case you want to use it. I'm reflecting on my role today. I think I fucking nailed it, y'all. I mean, come on. I was super prepared. I knew everything that was going to happen. I had notes. I kept the show flowing. I think because it's not like one of my bosses, I was way more relaxed. Like when Barrett was here before, I was so nervous. I was like, oh, God, what if I say something wrong? And then I flubbed up. I mean, Jonathan did a great job editing. Like, he edited out some stuff that was super ridiculous. Like, completely forgetting stuff and doing it out of order or whatever. But today I felt super confident. I mean, I miss Aaron, though, so I'm probably going to, let him be back in the driver's seat when he returns because this is where he sits and everything. Like, we wouldn't want him to sit on my side of the table. That's just weird. And while you're here in the outtakes listening for extra stuff, can I just tell you a little bit about this sticker giveaway thing? If you know about it or not. I know not all of you signed up for the newsletter and not all of you follow our official BTS Twitter. So just to bring everybody up at once, in November we had a survey. And the people who went to our website to fill out the survey were also asked to give us your newsletter. Your email for our BTS newsletter. This is not the CinemaSins newsletter. This is just for this podcast. So I've already sent out a few emails. I've talked about them recently in the past as well. And I sent out a newsletter last week about a sticker giveaway. So we have these little behind the scenes stickers and I'm wanting to give them away to you guys. But the only way that I can communicate with you directly is through email. And so if you want to sign up for the newsletter and learn more about the sticker giveaway, you can do that by going to cinemasins.com/BTS. That's the website, cinemasins.com/BTS. You'll see a box there for a newsletter and just type in your email. And I plan on sending another email very, very soon with an update on where we are for the giveaway. The giveaway, again, it's just it's a appreciation for you guys for filling out the survey in November. And of course, an appreciation for listening to the show and being a support to us. It's pretty incredible to be exposed to the CinemaSins fan base and have every single one of you guys just be phenomenal. Even those that give critical feedback have done so, I think, in a really positive way, and it's super appreciated. So this giveaway is kind of my attempt to show appreciation and gratitude. Now, there's obviously way more of you than there are stickers, and so I obviously can't send something to every single person listening right now, but I'm going to do my very best to get something to as many of you guys as I possibly can, because that just seems like a lot of fun for me. I'm the kind of person that likes everybody to win. But this will not be the last giveaway. So even if you don't get signed up for a sticker and you're skipping this one for whatever reason, which is totally fine, we're going to have merch sometime soon. We're going to have another giveaway sometime soon. I just didn't know it. Why do I know it? Because I'm going to bug my bosses until they let me do it. That's how I know it. I mean, I don't want to get fired, but I just think it's cool to have giveaways from time to time. So be sure that you like and subscribe and rate the show so that we can get more listeners and have a sponsor and have giveaways. That's my plan. It's all part of my diabolical plan, which is not that diabolical when it means you guys get to have cool stuff. Right? Like, that's the plan. Okay. I'm rambling now. Thanks for listening. Okay, bye.
Yeah, there weren't, I mean, it was pretty normal. De Niro didn't get nominated. That was weird. Ford versus Ferrari got nominated for Best Picture. I thought that was an odd. But maybe it's been nominated more than I realized.
Yeah, I've heard different things. I've heard there are people who really, really love that movie or just think it's okay.
It's a really, really good movie. I just was surprised it got nominated because I just didn't think that was one that was in the discussion that much. Yeah. Over like, I don't know, something like Knives Out or The Farewell or something. But yeah. And then Frozen 2 didn't get nominated for Best Animated Feature, which was kind of shocking, although rightfully so, it shouldn't have.
The Critics' Choice Awards for Best Animated was Toy Story 4.
That got nominated.
Yeah. Okay. You know, it was really interesting because I was watching all of it on Twitter. I've never paid attention to any of the award seasons ever before. Well, I guess I should say until Aaron started going, and then I sort of paid attention. But I've never been on Twitter. And there was this one dude, every single time Critics' Choice Awards posted the next winner, he responded with like a little few second video clip of himself sitting on the couch, like commenting on whatever had happened, and he wasn't wearing a shirt and he was missing his 2 front teeth. And I was fascinated by this guy.
I was gonna say I was just surprised that Greta Gerwig didn't get elected or get it nominated for directing Little Women. Yeah.
Well, especially, and I'll be honest, I haven't seen Joker. I'm gonna watch Joker this week. I haven't seen it yet, but Todd Phillips being nominated for an Oscar is just weird to me.
I enjoyed it.
It's like the guy who directed Road Trip and The Hangover.
I was going to say, I was surprised Lupita didn't get nominated for Us.
Huh? Yeah, that was another one.
Yeah.
And I mean, Cynthia Erivo got nominated for Harriet, and she's really good in that movie, but God, that movie is terrible. I wish there should be room for Lupita.
Yeah.
Yeah. Room for Lupita.
I follow. He said something along the lines of about the Critics' Choice Awards. He said, "Why are we having another award show where we're awarding the exact same people we awarded on the Golden Globes? They're just dressed differently." I'm really curious what Aaron has to say about that.
Yeah.
Aaron, that was so interesting to watch him on Twitter last night. Did you see that he became the Critics' Choice Award photographer?
I know, and he's gonna be annoying about that Google phone.
I'm telling you, I mean, it's a really sweet camera.
No, I'm sure it's amazing. That's just not. I'm not a camera guy. I'm not a picture taker.
It was so crazy because I asked him if he saw Kristen Bell to try to thank her. He wanted to talk to her about her work on what's the show she's doing where she's going and reviving like musicals?
Encore, maybe?
Encore? Yeah, maybe that's it.
Oh yeah, the Disney Plus show. Yeah.
Yeah. So he wanted to go and comment on that, and I said, "Well, would you mind also if you have time? Because I mean, obviously." That's a big issue with the celebrities being like they're whisked around everywhere. to thank her for what she did for my family when I was in Florida, in Orlando years back during Hurricane Irma. We couldn't get out. Our flights were canceled. And the only way out was to drive. And we had a rented van, but the problem was that all of the routes out, it was bumper to bumper traffic, and food was low and gas was low, and I had an infant. And so it's like, okay, do we just hunker down here in this hotel that says that they have a backup generator and they're really, secure, or do we like get on the highway where it's just like pandemonium? So we decided to stay through the hurricane, but my friends were like tweeting about my situation, and Kristen Bell messaged me directly and asked if she could help. Like, she's like, I will pay for, a car to get you out if that's an issue.
Oh, wow.
I know. Yeah. It was absolutely shocking, but she was really involved, I think, in a lot of the stuff that was happening during that time, because she went and sang at like a shelter or something, because I was watching her really closely afterwards. It was safest for us to stay at that point, so I declined her offer, but I thought it would be kind of cool if Aaron could thank her on my behalf. Anyhow, so he texts me this picture. He's like letting me know he was right there next to Kristen. And then the next thing I see is that the Critics' Choice used his photo for their like official feed. And they had invited him backstage to start taking pictures of the celebrities as they were like standing in front of that wall holding their awards or whatever, because his camera on his phone is so legit amazing. And then also, interesting thing of note, there's a picture of, I don't remember the girl, but it's Quentin Tarantino standing with the actress. And that picture, if you go look at it, was actually taken in the dark. And it's Pixel 4 has that cool
Yeah,
nighttime.
I think he tweeted that. He said this was it was almost black. It was almost dark, or it was basically dark when I took it. So
crazy, and he used that during Sin Week before too, with everybody from Sin Week last year as well. But
yeah, no,
obviously
everything
it's an
looked cool. I
updated
mean,
camera.
it almost looked like it was almost like so good it looked like not real.
Yeah, because it was kind of blurry on the edges a bit.
Yeah, like people were commenting. Like there was a couple of comments. He took a picture. I can't remember the actor's name. He played Moriarty on the Sherlock show with Benedict Cumberbatch, and he was in. I think he's.
Oh, Andrew Scott.
Yeah, Andrew Scott. Is he in Fleabag?
Yeah, he's in Fleabag
Maybe?
as well. The second
Okay,
season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he took a picture of him, and somebody even commented that it looked like it was like a CG insert.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
like they
really
just
good.
inserted him in between these other things, all that stuff.
But you think about it, like he invited his wife to go with him to the Critics' Choice Awards, and then at some point, someone must have come up and been like, "We need you behind stage," and so he's like, "See you, wife."
Yeah, so Bong Joon-ho with Parasite and Sam Mendes from 1917.
Oh yeah,
they
that's
tied.
Right. Yes,
And
they
then
tied.
I think there's even, hold on a second, I'm curious about this because I think the Oscars have even had a tie before. But here we go, 6 ties. So in 1932 Oscars, Frederick March and Wallace Beery tied for Best Actor. Although it says March had one more vote, so maybe it's a percentage thing. Best
That's so
Documentary
funny.
Short Subject tied in 1950. Best Actress in 1969. It was Katharine Hepburn and Barbara Streisand.
Names I know.
Best Documentary Feature in 1987. Best Short Film in 1995. And Best Sound Editing in 2013.
Interesting.
But
Well, there
obviously
you know.
very rare if it's only happened 6 times. But yeah. That works.
We did it.